at the end of the show. Has everyone got that clear? You're all happy? So I'm going to start off. The first reader today is going to be Bryan Beadyman. He is an amazing street poet. He's worked with Alabama Threes. He's known for rapid-fire, passionate narratives about the tricks that politicians play on us and the war is in our name. You can find him on SoundCloud at Brian Wilson, and I'm sure he'll be able to tell you a little bit more about his work, but may I present to you Bryan Beadyman.
Hello, good evening, everyone. The piece I'm going to give you now is called America, but America spelt with 3 Ks.
One sec, sorry, I'm so sorry, Bryan. Right, go.
Oh, unmute. Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. This was written as a direct response to the murder of George Floyd. I wrote it the day after. It filled me with both anger and regret at what had happened. So anyhow, I'll go straight into it. It's called America. It was actually turned into a record as well, which you can find on my YouTube channel at Beadyman Poet. And with all proceeds going to a Brixton charity to help children, disadvantaged children, called Indigo. It goes like this. We ain't born ignorant. It's learnt behaviour. I ain't got no religion, no faith in a saviour. Cognitive dissonance is part of human nature. Trust in your instincts or we're all set for failure. Don't believe all that you are told in the media or when politicians say, we're all in this together. Another black man dies. He wasn't to blame. George Floyd. Remember the name. So after the I and before the second A, take out the C and insert 3 Ks. America, ka. America, ka. Fred Hampton was taken out by the state. To them, a strong black man was a figure of hate. He was feeding the kids and bringing peace to the streets, providing medical care and educational needs. The carnage continues to this present day, with people of colour still being enslaved. Another black man dies. He wasn't to blame. George Floyd. Remember the name. So after the I and before the second A, take out the C and insert 3 Ks. America, ka. The US has a history of racial inequality from the massacre of the natives and right through to slavery now. State-run servitude endorsed by the judiciary with minimum sentencing set down as mandatory. The 13th Amendment nods its head to slavery, profiteering from brothers and sisters in penal facilities. Another black man dies. He wasn't to blame. George Floyd. Remember the name. So after the I and before the second A, take out the C and insert 3 Ks. America, ka. America, ka. Colin Kaepernick decided to take to the knee. It wasn't against the flag, but police brutality. And Rosa Parks wasn't just trying to make a fuss when she took a seat at the front of the bus. And MLK marched with 1 million men. The system's racist now, and it was racist back then. Another black man dies. He wasn't to blame. George Floyd. Remember the name. So after the I and before the second A, take out the C and insert 3 Ks. America, ka. America, ka. The system is broken and needs an upheaval. Institutional racism is a clear and present evil. It's time now that they see that we all have rights. People of colour must be as equal as whites. Black lives matter. We must continue the fight in the pursuit of happiness and a fulfilling life. Another black man dies. He wasn't to blame. George Floyd. Remember the name. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Bryan. I think it's such a powerful piece. Thank you. The next writer that I want to present to you, can you mute everyone, Stuart, is Ashley Hickson-Lovence. And he's helped to source and advise some of the writers here. He's read at BookJam before. And he's the author of a great book, which is going to be possibly reading from. Hasn't decided yet. He's originally from Hackney, currently completing a PhD in creative and critical writing from the University of East Anglia. His debut novel, The 392, set almost entirely on a London bus over just 36 minutes, was released with Own It in April 2019. He's currently writing his second novel, and you can find him on the internet at ashleyhickson-lovence.com or on Twitter, @Hickson-Lovence. I'm just going to unmute you now, Ashley, and take it away.
Thank you, Zelda. Yes, I'm going to be reading from the 392. It's my debut, as Zelda said. It's set entirely on a London bus over 36 minutes. You hear from 11 different passengers on this bus, including the bus driver, as a strange man loiters on the front of the bus with a bag on his back. This particular character that I'm reading from today is remembering the London 2011 riots. I believe he's quite a good character, but he has been perceived to be a wrong-un, so to speak, by society. So this little extract that I'm reading is him remembering those nights in Tottenham and him trying to redeem himself, so to speak, in the eyes of society. I remember the colour so clearly. I had never seen anything like it. A bright golden orange like the lava from a volcano. It was in fact an eruption of light. Even though it was dark and pretty late, the flames were so blindingly bright I could have worn sunglasses. The flames felt so hot too, I could feel it prickling my skin, but I just wanted to stay and watch the power of the flames at work. I remember watching as the fire engulfed the interior, the seats, the poles, the steering wheel, the windows, the stairs, both the lower deck and upper deck, all aflame. After a short while, my eyes started singing from the smoke billowing out, but I stood there still as the ash flew about everywhere like hot summer snowflakes, and tears streamed from my eyes. I never thought I would see a sight like this, a fire causing so much damage, a bus dying in this way. All along Tottenham High Road, complete chaos, like something from the news when you hear about Syria and Afghanistan, buildings on fire and hooded kids egging the police on, swearing and cussing, hurling rocks and glass bottles and messaging people from all over London who got the call to get involved. Police horses charging into crowds of people, crowds that included little kids, and behind the horses an army of police officers in riot gear, batons, shields and swear words. It was madness. I could see why people were angry. I was angry. And to top it all off, we had police officers, not even from the area, not even from London, some of them, trying to tell us what to do and how to feel. It got everyone mad. This was Tiverton, Tottenham, not Hull. As the night carried on, the troubles got worse. I remember the broken glass showering down on us like rain, and the plumes of smoke from the bus on fire still cascading into the sky and clouding the whole of Tottenham and the whole of North London, basically. Police vans barricading and blocking off certain roads. But it didn't stop us. We ran around aimlessly like it was one big game, one big playground. People jumped on abandoned police cars, climbed over garden fences and smashed shop windows. We felt all emotions, anger and ecstasy, joy and pain. We were hurt and wanted to cause as much damage as possible, get back at the police, get back at David Cameron and the Tory government, and get back at the racist systems. And this was the only voice that we had. Forget marches in Westminster Square. This was our own special form of protest in the comfort of our own area. Like this little bus journey, it's been bumpy at times, but I've turned a few corners since the court case in 2011. I had to do my time, clear my name and move forward quickly, and trust me, that wasn't easy. Wearing high vis on the high street, sweeping roads and loading bin bags into the back of vans, while my boys from the ends watched from across the road, laughing and cussing. That was tough. But I studied hard in the evenings. St. Anne's Library became my second home. Ever since primary, people have always said that I've been good at arguing, something that comes from my days at secondary school, arguing with everyone that Manchester United were better than Arsenal, comparing Keane with Vieira, Giggs with Pires, Scholes with Fabregas. To be fair, no one could compare with Henri though. That guy was class. I was destined to work in law from young, and it was more than just because for black parents it's one of only 3 desired career paths, the others being doctor or engineer, of course. But being a lawyer always seemed to be a career that played to my skills, debating, fighting injustice, going blow to blow with the popo. 2011 was a setback, to say the least. I can't lie. I got sucked in by all the Mark Duggan hard stop stuff. It mattered to me. He mattered to me. I knew him, not personally, but everyone in the ends knew of him, saw him about the estate from time to time. He was like what Escobar was to Medellin in Narcos. He was one of those faces of the area, godlike in many ways, not just him, but his whole family too. It was all of this Mark had a gun talk that got us really angry in the days after he was shot dead by people paid to protect the community. If he had a gun, he ain't gonna shoot it at the police officers now, is he? As I said to the magistrates that day, this isn't America. I had to do something. I needed to make a difference, defend the defenseless. That's why I became a solicitor, fight injustice one case at a time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ashley. I love the twist at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was great. And that book's been out for a little while, doing really well. And you're writing another book, so.
Yes, I've just finished. I finished the second book. It's progress is good.
Amazing. So I can't wait to hear some of that one next
Thank
time.
you.
Brilliant. So our next writer comes from much further afield. We're very lucky to have him here with us. Let me just welcome into the room Troy. Say hello, just so I can check the sound. Brilliant.
Hi.
Coming
Hi.
all the way from Nairobi to join us today. He is a really great writer. You're going to love this piece that he's about to give you. His work has appeared in Prairie Schooner, Wasafari, Johannesburg Review of Books, Nairobi Noir, Cain Prize Anthology, and Transition, among others. He's the winner of the inaugural Nyanza Literary Festival Prize and first runner-up in the Black Letter Media Competition, nominated for the Pushcart Prize and shortlisted for the Brittle Paper Awards. And having heard him read, I can completely understand why he's been so celebrated for his writing. So I'm going to hand you over to Troy Onyango now. Take it away, Troy.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be reading from my short story called The Transfiguration. I am thinking of how to tell my mother that she's a bad woman, that she did not raise me well. The woman with a bleached face and knuckles blacker than the tip of a quill told me so. The matters of a husband and wife you leave to them. You don't interfere. Didn't your mother teach you that? Go tell her to raise you again. No wonder you behave like a woman. She yelled from the window of her apartment, which is right above mine, apartment 4B. I had gone to save her from her husband's daily beating. Despite all that pounding, the woman didn't want me to intervene. You don't save someone who doesn't want to be saved, Mother used to say. I sit, pen in hand. My palms are sweaty. As my trembling hand presses the pen against the paper, my life cascades before me. Flashes of blood, sepia-toned images. A silent film of my 28 years on earth. Silent but with color. A silent horror movie. My anguish stares wide at me like the green-eyed owl that hoots in the dark back alley. Dear Mother, I hope this letter finds you well. This is the part that I lie I am concerned for her welfare. I would have written sooner. I know I should, but I have been too busy. Another lie. Then I go on to ask her how life back home is and if Uncle X is still alive and if Auntie Y finally gave birth. Anyway, I was just writing to tell you that the woman who lives in apartment 4B told me that my mother didn't raise me well. I think it's true. No, too harsh. She will be devastated. I know her. She will slap her thighs and whip her heart out. I crumple the piece of paper into a small ball with ink smudges. I will call her instead. Hello. Who is this? Has my voice changed at all? Maybe the medicine is working after all. This is Rhoda. I mean, Ronnie, your son. Why do you speak like a woman now? Because I am a woman now. Well, I am changing to be a woman, but that's not why I called. No, stop crying, Mother, okay? The woman from apartment 4B told me you didn't raise me well. I think she's saying the truth. No, it's not God's fault this time. It's yours. At this point, she breaks down. All I hear is sobbing on the other end. My network provider tells me I don't have any more airtime. Bloody conglomerates. Can they let a mother weep over her son's tribulations? My cell phone buzzes and I wake up to a blue flashing screen. I have a missed call. Mzamodo. A text message from him too. If you come late, I will not give you the drugs. Sikufichi. I know he's not lying. I leap up and head for the bus station. Machakos Country Bus Station on a Sunday afternoon is Nebuchadnezzar's furnace. The sun, a large fiery ball emitting yellowy spikes, scorches our foreheads. The stupefying heat saps humidity from the earth, leaving red gusts of fine dust floating in the air. Touts shout atop their voices beneath the oppressive glare. Hawkers chant the name of their wares in glorious melody. The hooting of the buses rises above the human noises and drowns them. I have sat in this stuffy like a coffin Dandora-bound matatu for an hour now. There seems to be no sign of it filling up. I flap my hand close to my face and pull my Dera dress away from my body to allow air to circulate and cool off. I have nothing underneath. I glance at the wristwatch. If I sit here any longer, I will be late. Mzamodo doesn't like me being late. I make my way from the back of the matatu and walk past rows of empty seats with chapter covers. An Afrobeat song with the words Prokoto and Chocolate City being repeated over and over again blares from the large black speakers mounted on the roof of the bus. A young man of about 17 or 19 stands at the door and shouts, Dandora Hamsini, Dandora 50 bob. He sees me alight and grabs my wrist. I quickly pull away from his grip. He retreats, presses his palms together as if in a prayer, and beseeches, Madam, tafadhali rudi ndani. I stare at him for a while, hair shaved on both sides into a mohawk, Arsenal FC shirt stained with rings of sweat under the armpits, teeth discolored to a dark shade of green from constant mastication of mirror, palms that's dusty from all the pounding of the bus panel. And I get back into the empty bus. Why? I don't know, but maybe because he's the first person on the streets of Nairobi to call me madam.
Brilliant. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was great. I really love that story. I love the way you gradually grow to understand the character, and they're brilliant. Surprise at the end. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Brilliant. Really, really
So
good.
we've got one more writer in this set, and we are travelling all the way back to London for a virtual tour of the theatres, our much-loved theatres, which sadly have been empty for a few months. So Amber Massie-Blomfeld is going to take us to the theatre for a little bit. She's a non-fiction writer and arts professional who's written 20 Theatres to See Before You Die, which received a Society of Authors Michael Meyer Award. And she's also a columnist for The Stage and has written for The Independent, The Guardian, The Pool, Standart, Exeunt, Brixton Review of Books, The New Internationalist, Open Democracy, Run Riot, and many more. So I'm just going to queue up Amber for us now. And Amber, take it away.
Hi, so yes, this is my book, 20 Theatres to See Before You Die. Go and buy it from all the book purveyors. In 2017, I'm a theatre producer, and in 2017, I decided to take some time off and do a big road trip around the UK to go and visit theatres that were kind of off the beaten track, not the big, shiny, glamorous West End theatres, but theatres in small communities, theatres that were doing things a little bit differently. And I kind of wanted to discover why theatres really matter to their communities. Little did I know that a couple of years later, all the theatres would be basically shut down for a year, and we'd have even more need to be reminded of why they're so important. So I'm going to read now the beginning of my chapter about Battersea Arts Centre, because it's the nearest theatre to Brixton. And hopefully some of you might be familiar with it. So here we go. On the 13th of March 2015, I was on a train heading southwest from Waterloo Station. As we passed through Clapham, I glanced in the direction of Battersea Arts Centre, which can just be made out in the distance from that railway line. The blue air was filled with smoke, thick and heavy on the skyline. It seemed implausible, the contents of a disordered dream. But a scan of Twitter confirmed it. Battersea Arts Centre was on fire. Artistic director David Jubb learned the news at home on the Kent coast. His colleague made what seemed to be a routine phone call to inform him that the building's fire alarms had gone off and that the staff had assembled outside, the sort of thing that happens in theatres when people burn their toast or use the wrong kind of fog machine in a rehearsal room. But then he heard the catch in her throat as she saw the flames take hold of the roof of the grand hall at the back of the building. The panic rose in her voice when she told him to get here right away. Within minutes, the fire was raging, wind stoking the flames and spreading it across the roof toward the clock tower. There is some mesmerising quality to a fire which makes people stop in their tracks, unable to turn their gaze away from the astonishing force with which it takes hold, spreads and consumes. Crowds gathered behind flimsy red and white tape, training their cameras on it, tilting their phones up towards this grim, impromptu tourist attraction. A round attic window at the back funneled the blaze into the sky, furious and alive. 2 firemen were raised up on an aerial ladder platform, tiny black figures lifting a high, fizzing arc of water towards the flames, absurdly inadequate. Soon the roof caved in, the inferno opening up the building's insides to the sky, everything leaning inwards and disintegrating, beams and tiles and scaffolding poles. Jesus have mercy, God, someone said. As he rode up to the city, Jubb watched the fire on Twitter, his phone flickering with intermittent Wi-Fi signal. Stepping off the train at Clapham Junction, he smelt wood burning and knew it was his own building. When he reached the crest of Lavender Hill, he looked in the opposite direction, as if in fear that, unshielded by his mobile phone, he would also be caught. What was it that was becoming so much ash, lifted on the thick London air and scattered across the city? The tangible things, certainly. Ornate coving, the rare Victorian organ. Nobody was hurt in the fire, but for some time it was feared that Pluto, the theatre's much-loved black cat, had been caught inside, until he turned up days later, brazen and unharmed. It struck me once the flames were dampened that a burnt-out building becomes a kind of aid memoir for all the things that happened inside it. The impulse was to remember, and in the days that followed, people began to tell stories that demonstrated all that BAC had meant to them. Someone spoke of riding a bike around the Grand Hall, chasing balloons. Another of being moved to tears by the spoken word artist Kate Tempest, ferocious and vital as she told stories of everyday gods. On Twitter, a hashtag started, #BACPhoenix, and very quickly it was flooded with stories of days and nights spent at BAC. Debates sparked and worldviews changed, friends made and romances kindled. For many, many people, the venue was part of their psychological cartography of the city, a coordinate from which they'd mapped their lives. It's quite astonishing how much of your heart you can give to a place, wrote theatre journalist Catherine Love, as if a physical fragment of her had been held there, locked into the walls. Battersea Art Centre carries my stories too. If the Theatre Royal Bath was where I had my first experience of theatre, this was where I fine-tuned my tastes. I was unhappy and broke when I arrived in the city at 19, desperately casting around for something to cling on to. I found BAC. I started coming to free evening classes as a means of escaping my miserable flat and painful relationship. And for a few hours, I'd get lost in whatever creative project was on offer that week. I remember writing a poem about the clientele of the furniture shop where I worked, a stand-up comedy class. One night, with a bunch of new friends I had made, I plotted the downfall of Rupert Murdoch's media empire. Alas, I've forgotten the precise details, but the friendships remain. I didn't speak to anyone I met about the fact that I was frightened to go home, but the simple grace of knowing there was a place where my presence and voice were valued was sustaining. I'd found my tribe. At BAC, I began to comprehend the full scope of what theatre can be. Theatre, I was discovering, encompassed a sphere of activity far vaster than I had yet imagined. There were performances where audience members were blindfolded and pushed about in wheelchairs, had their feet washed, or were suspended out of second-floor windows. Once I watched a group of women so inspired by the feminist performance they had just seen, get up on stage, remove their clothes, and perform a chorus of Jerusalem. Once I cooked a meal with people I didn't know in a room on the top floor. Over dinner, we talked about the people we had broken bread with in our lives, and I saw how you can make a family of strangers. The artists that BAC hosted seemed to give so much more of themselves than I was used to, and so the audiences gave more of themselves too. Often the exchanges overflowed the official bounds of the show. Conversations prompted by the work carried on in the bar, debates raging until the last orders bell. There were parties here too. I dressed up as a pirate and as Wednesday Addams. Once I stayed up all night, watching back-to-back episodes of Twin Peaks and drinking mugs of damn good coffee. How often I've stumbled out drunk onto Lavender Hill, carved a lunging, wheeling path down to the station, just in time to catch the last train back to whatever far-flung corner of the city I was calling home. Twice I was kissed. Nothing came of those kisses. They stand alone, lovely jewels of the night.
That was lovely. I was really transported by that, Amber. So we miss that world, which will come back, I'm sure. And actually, we're very lucky now because Mick Artistik's going to bring a bit of the magic of music and theatre and performance into your living rooms now with some music. Can I just introduce you, Mick? He's a poet, performer, very talented artist and comedian. He's played Glastonbury for the last 12 years with his band and was featured on BBC iPlayer Highlights. Supported Faust, Chas and Dave, played the London Fashion Show and Batley Rugby Club, and is loved by all, stroke some, including Iggy Pop, who named his song Sweet Leaf of the North as Song of the Decade. So you're very lucky to have Mick Artistik with you this evening. He's going to give us a couple of songs.
Good evening, one and all. I'm ringing from Leeds, and I'm going to do a couple of poems, and I'm going to play the accordion. And I'll start off with a poem. Take an oxo from the boxo and rub it soft against your skin. Feel the texture, smell the gravy, feel the dinner coming in. When you're hungry, when you're lonely, when it's Sunday, when it's supper time, get an oxo from the boxo and rub it soft against your skin. And if you listen, you can hear tides of gravy rolling in across your Yorkshires, pushing mushrooms and bits of carrot off the edge of the plate. So when your partner says it's over and the words don't sink in, get an oxo from the boxo and rub it soft against your skin. Here's another one. He's a professor. He's got a pair of brown brogues. He studied for a long time. He's a professor and he's a friend of mine. He's just finishing his seminar. And all his students think he's a star. And no one ever vandalizes his car. He's a professor and he's a friend of mine. He's got a lot of letters after his name. But he doesn't brag about it. He's not interested in fortune and fame. And when he sees me in the pub, he says, "Hello, Graham." He's a professor and he's a friend of mine. Thank you. I don't need heroin. I don't need heroin. I don't need heroin to complicate my life. I'll stick to bitter. I'll stick to Baileys. I don't need heroin to give me all that strife. I've seen the needles, the scabby needles, the bloody blisters and the weeping sores. I don't need heroin. I don't need heroin. Heroin is something I abhor. No one ever offered me heroin. I didn't seem to be that kind of guy. Guess I was lucky, fucking lucky. It was something that I never got to try. I'm 65, bit bloody late now. I've got 3 kids, an ISA and a wife. And I don't need heroin. I don't need heroin. I don't need heroin to complicate my life. I haven't a clue what to do with the needle, the spoon and the tie. There's all this faffing, bloody faffing. It's something that I really don't need to try. I feel all right. I'm fairly happy. I feel quite happy, but things could always turn. But I won't do heroin. I won't do heroin. Heroin is something I shall spurn. I know that whiskey can be risky. That's why I'll only have a little glass. But I won't do heroin. I won't do heroin. Heroin is something I shall pass. I don't need heroin. I don't need heroin. I don't need heroin to complicate my life. I'll stick to bitter. I'll stick to Baileys. I'll stick to Merlot. I'll stick to Belgian chocolates. I'll stick to halloumi. But I won't let heroin complicate my life.
Yay.
I just want to quickly say thank you for being here watching me, because I love attention and an audience, and I'm not getting very much audience. My girlfriend's going mental because I just keep performing in front of her. I've got no audiences, so it's just lovely to see your reaction, perplexed, unnerved, happy, whatever. I'm going to show you some drawings. I've been working on a little book called It's Irrelevant, and it's a book about me and my friend who I went to art college with about 40 years ago. We have long conversations on the phone. We've been going dancing and stuff right from when I was 20-year-old and going to punk clubs and this, that and the other. And we're always chatting on the phone. We always end up with saying, oh, have you heard Jeffrey Lewis, or have you heard Eugene Chadbourne, or have you heard the Whole Steady, or have you heard the Transistor Bonkers, whatever. And my friend said, well, why don't we do a book about all these wonderful people we talk about on the phone that kind of stir us up? And so we've done a book now, and it's about all these people. And I've been doing some pen and ink drawings because I spent 30 years as a portrait artist working in Biro, wandering around the country, bagging people. So I'm going to show you some of these drawings that are going to end up in this book. And they're all these pop stars that I love and that I wanted to be when I was like 20, 21. I was so frustrated just watching people because I wanted to be a star. But anyway, here's some stars for you to look at. And that's Fee Waybill from the Tubes. And this is Jonathan Richmond. This is Stevie Marriott from the Small Faces. And this is Eve Steele who works on Coronation Street and did a wonderful play called Life by the Throat. And this is an albino guitarist called Johnny Winter, who is now dead from heroin overdose, but he was a magnificent guitar player. I'm going to read you one little section from this book. It's going to be called It's Irrelevant, and if you want a copy, get in touch with me at mickartistik.com. That's my website, but I'm just going to read you one little section from it. It's coming up now. Here we go. Stevie Marriott. I was out on my paper bag rounds trying to sell a portrait. I think it was a Wednesday night in Leeds, so pickings would have been quite small. He was on at a place called Brannigan's and he was late. The band were already on stage and were tuned up. They broke into I'm Ready and he came tumbling in, stage left, still in his grey gabardine coat. He cleared his throat, sent a ball of spit 10 yards stage right and smashed down the chords on his big cherry red Gibson. This chunky little figure went at it for over an hour. All the hits from Small Faces and Humble Pie. I decided I would ask him to sit for a drawing. He let me into the dressing room. It was small. We sat close and we talked. And he told me all about the cheap B&Bs around the country, the ones that Tommy Cooper, Morecambe and Wise and Des O'Connor used. He had an address book full of them. There was a great hotel up Street Lane in Roundhay where I lived, where you could get a full English breakfast at 3:30 in the morning. It was wonderful. The drawing was pants. I was too starstruck. He said, "You're a nice man." And that's a section from my book, It's Irrelevant. So.
Thank you so much, Mick.
Thank you, Zelda.
All the way from Leeds.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed Amber. I think it was lovely. My uncle used to live in Battersea, and I have fond memories of Battersea, going to visit him. But some lovely stuff. So thank you. I'm listening anyway.
Brilliant. Okay.
Can you ask two questions?
Oh, Keith wants to know something. Our live audience member is going to ask a question. Come round, Keith.
Yes, sir.
I just adjust my hat.
How much was your English Brexit?
Pardon?
Your English Brexit, how much was it?
My English Brexit? I didn't get an English Brexit.
Oh, I thought that's what you said.
No, I said a full English breakfast.
Oh, well, I'm going to have a pint of Brexit bitter and get over this.
Yeah.
that was Keith. He's our live audience member.
Oh my God!
Interesting since
Right.
2012.
I love you.
Cool. Okay, thank you very much, Mick.
Yes,
so that was set one and a really wonderful musical intermission. We're now going to go straight into set two because we're not in the pub, so we're not going to stumble around the garden having a bit of a smoke and then coming back in when I drag you manually by the collar. So it usually happens. So set two, we are going to travel to Nigeria with Elizabeth Okoh, who's a British Nigerian writer, photographer and content creator with a penchant for storytelling and a wanderlust. She holds a degree in psychology and sociology from the University of Sussex and a certificate in novel writing and longer works from City University. Her work has been published in online and print magazines as well as curated in exhibitions internationally, and her debut novel, The Returnees, will be published by Hodder and Stoughton on the 6th of August 2020. So very soon, excitingly. There's already quite a massive buzz around it, which is how BookJam picked it up. We saw people talking about the amazing new book. So I'm really looking forward to hearing this. She's currently working on her second novel and empowering women through the art of boudoir photography, which is also quite intriguing. So without further ado, I'm just going to cue up Lise and take it away, Lise.
Thank you for having me. So I'll be reading from my debut novel, The Returnees, which is about 3 British Nigerians who moved from London to the mega city of Lagos. And the book sort of follows their first year of returning to Nigeria. I'll be reading from a chapter where one of the characters who actually has been sort of forced to move back. And in this chapter, she sort of finds out about the whole situation. Whenever my brothers and I had been very naughty growing up, Dad had joked about packing us off to experience African life. Mom would complain that in her day, we would have never gotten away with such behavior. Who could have thought that my father's threat was going... Oh my God, sorry about that. Who could have thought that my father's threat was going to catch up with me all these years later? If I had known some sort of plan had been brewing, perhaps I would have done something about it. Unaware of the future consequences, I had left my first job after university just 2 months in. Dad had only looked at me with disappointment and shrugged. Mom, on the other hand, had been upset and sternly reminded me that I was no longer a child and that my time was ticking. I should have known better and stuck with the job until I found something more to my liking. Then came the fateful evening. My parents were loud people, but I had noticed them speaking in hushed tones that night. It had unnerved me. Call it a sixth sense or whatever, but I had wondered why they were whispering, since I was certain that they weren't aware of my eavesdropping. Then I heard my name and realized that whatever it was, there was going to be an uncomfortable discussion. Pressing my ear firmly to the door, I closed my eyes and focused, but I could hardly make out what they were saying. If that's what you want, then tell her yourself, Mom had said flatly, in the tone of voice she used when she wasn't keen on something. Nkechi, you have to support me on this. It has to come from the both of us, my dad pleaded. Shebi you want her to go. Call her now. Are you not the head of the house? Mom retorted. It became quiet, and I sensed I would be called in at any moment. I turned around and as quietly as I could, made my way towards the stairs that led to my bedroom on the top floor of the house. But just before I entered, I heard my name. Cynthia! I threw myself onto the bed. Cynthia! I counted to 3. Cynthia! Is Cynthia not in this house? My father bellowed from the bottom of the stairs. I'm coming! I shouted and slowly made my way down again and into the living room. As I sat down on the sofa opposite my parents, I feigned a yawn and stretched my arms as if I had been taking a nap. Yes, Dad, I said. How many times do I have to call you before you answer, eh? He started. Anyway, we've called you here to discuss some important matter. He looked at Mom for support, but she had a blank expression. She had clearly decided to sit it out. Her husband wished his wife had chosen a better time to be stubborn. Her unwillingness to see things his way was going to make it even more difficult, but he continued. Now that you finish university, we can't have you just sitting at home. We've decided that you'll go to my brother's place in Abuja. You'll do NYSC while you're there. I had been gobsmacked. I couldn't believe what I had heard. I had only been aware of the National Youth Service Corps program in passing. My Nigerian friends at university had to undergo it after their undergraduate studies, but I had never considered that I might have to do it. It was a year-long mandatory program for all graduates, set up by the Nigerian government more than 40 years ago. The year comprised of an initial 3 weeks orientation period in a camp, before the graduates, known as coppers, were dispersed to work for the remaining 11 months in various public and governmental sectors. During this time, they were to contribute to the communities within their deployed states as a means of serving the country. But I didn't live in Nigeria. So what was this nonsense with my dad wanting to send me there? Dad, you must be joking. I can't serve. I don't even live in the country. Are you serious? I exclaimed. Whether you live there or not, we want you to go. It will teach you discipline and you'll be fine with Peter, Dad maintained. Mom, is Dad serious? Are you not going to say anything? I can't go to Nigeria. Cynthia, your father has spoken. He thinks it will do you some good, my mom said with a measured tone. What good? I just finished uni. I need to start building a career. I don't even know anyone there. How can you do this to me? I was enraged, yet still stunned, hoping it was all a bad joke to shake me up. What job are you looking for? You lie in bed every day and type on your computer like a typewriter, or put on makeup like a masquerade. Cynthia, you have to go. I think we've spoiled you enough in this house. It's time for you to face the real world. Enough is enough, Dad concluded. I was in tears. I had seen that my father wasn't kidding, and my mother's silence was telling. I just couldn't believe it. It's called a cut crease, by the way, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm an adult, you know. I had stormed out and tried to hide the tears that had slowly begun to cloud my vision. I brushed them off and ran up the stairs 2 at a time. When I got in bed, I furiously typed on my phone, sending my best friend Veronica a message. My dad has gone mad. I am finished.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
For bringing that really great book. And that will be out soon on August the 4th, is it?
Yeah, in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I'm going to be running down there to get a copy when the bookshops have be open again, which is exciting. Yeah. Okay, so feels a bit, odd introducing myself because I haven't done any readings at any of the lockdown book jams, which someone pointed out was a bit odd. So I'll be working on a new book about a woman who sells her soul to the magpies. So I was just going to read you a short piece of that. I'm not going to read my bio out. I guess we've been doing Book Jam for 8 years, and I've written a couple of books before. You can find them in the library. And anyway, I'm just going to get straight into it. Okay. The book's going to be called Night Shift. And this chapter is called Temper, Temper. From outside, the building in O'Meara Street looks derelict. Once upon a time, it had been a set building workshop and then had lain empty for years until Eva had discovered it and made it her studio. The buzzer goes and Eva checks the camera, discreetly positioned above the street door, before pressing the enter button. She's waiting, as she always does for new clients, at the top of a dark staircase in a pure white room, furnished with a simple desk and 2 chairs. Light streams in through a paper window and illuminates the water jug and 2 glasses that sit in readiness. She can hear his heavy tread on the stairs and keeps her voice crisp as she calls out, "Come," in response to his diffident knock on the door. She tells him to take a seat and asks him about his expectations, his limits. Does he have any health conditions? What had made him choose her? Many of the questions have already been answered on the phone, but she likes to watch them tell her about themselves. They're inevitably nervous, as well they should be. This is a man she will be hurting and binding. She needs to know if he'll be physically robust enough for the scene. Dead clients are hard to explain. How would he like to play today? Maybe she should use her shibaru skills, suspending him upside down in a web of red hempen ropes. A gloved fist shoved up his anus. Head harness or not? Is he the kind that likes to be gagged, whipped, cut? Now that she's established the ground rules and gained his trust, they're ready to move on. She points to a door in the wall behind her and tells him to go through to the other room, remove his clothes, and wait on his knees until she's ready for him. Half an hour or so in the windowless, black-walled room, lined with shackles, ropes, and wicked-looking hooks, should put him in the right frame of mind. The door closes behind him, and Eva spends the next half an hour thinking about what she will do to this apparently well-versed masochist. She's used to the type. It's like a drug for him. He's probably got a wife and kids at home who are completely unaware of Daddy's dark side. And in a way, isn't he just like a junkie, visiting her for his fix? A superficial pleasure that soon wears off and leaves in its place even greater pain, despair, and need. She knew doms that claimed that the scene was about trust, mutual respect, kinky games, theatre, play. Their customers were not just clients, but friends. Eva knows better. The tribute is a transaction, after all. The game is, at the end of the day, about money and power. There's nothing intimate about it. After this, she would go straight to Charlie's place and hang out until she got home. At least she could keep herself busy tidying up the flat and making it nice for when Charlie finished work. Clear up the piles of clutter on the coffee table, rolling papers, flyers, tickets, old tobacco packets, do the laundry, maybe even do some ironing for her. Charlie wasn't big on housework, and domestic tasks made Eva feel more normal, gave their relationship an intimacy that it might otherwise lack. The small things they know about each other. The way Charlie's pockets are always full of lollipop sticks. Eva tried to remember the first time she thought of unrolling them, of writing messages on them. She rolled them back into tight tubes, tied with brightly coloured bits of string, and left them in the garden for the magpies to find. And if the cat got one, all the better. A small revenge. Charlie hadn't mentioned the cuts. She had to know. She didn't talk about her work much, but Eva knew she'd done a post-mortem on at least one of them. Their deaths were on her patch. Hiding so much becomes exhausting after a while. And how did the magpies know which notes were intended for which people? They never failed. She was just as constrained as the clients who called her madam, the only difference being that it was a game they had chosen to play, a straight transaction, cash for pain. Don't question how those notes are delivered to Ronald, to Vincent, to George, to Freddie, to Frank, to Tommy, to Tony. And especially don't question how the notes are written in a daze where she feels woven into the warp and weft of a great game, the pen in her hand an extension of another's will. Change the subject. Time to start the game. He's probably in the right frame of mind by now. Okay. Anyway, sorry, it's quite dark, but yeah, who knows what any of us would do. Great, so we've got one more writer in this set, and Anne is going to take you to the other end of the spectrum with just a little retrospective on how we feel about the world around us. From complete fiction, we're going to have a bit of reality. Isn't that right, Anne? So I'm just going to take Anne off mute. Oops. Can you unmute yourself, Anne? Yeah, yeah. You're here. Brilliant. Thank you. So I'll just introduce you first. I was checking you're on board. She is the author of Touched and the anti-war poem essay, 21st Century Guernica, described as powerful and deeply moving by the late Tony Benn, MP. She has poetry published by Leaf Books, Loose Muse Anthologies, and Proletarian Poetry. Life, art, and her activism merged with the position of writer-in-residence at Cressingham Gardens, which is an estate which the residents have battled to save in Brixton for actually nearly almost a decade now, is it what you say, Anne?
7 years. About 7 years.
Yeah. And actually, it was facing demolition, but you've really been successful in your fight for the residents to manage it. So its future is looking brighter. And she put many of her thoughts about this and also other people's thoughts into an anthology, which I think you curated pretty much, Anne, called 306, Living Under the Shadow of Regeneration. So she's going to be bringing her poetry to us now. So Anne, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Zelda. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is poetry. It's experimental. And what I will say is obviously while we've been locked down, we couldn't really travel anywhere, and this kind of harks back to a time when we could, but it was travel in more than one meaning of the word. A time I found myself in Mexico. Then the title of this piece means literally what wave or what wavelength. But it was used in this tiny little village, Zipolite, as a greeting. So it was used to say, hello, how are you? You know, what's up? How you doing? So this is ¿Qué onda? Everyone is waiting for the rain. It's been 3 years, Carlito tells me. The corn dies, the cows are dry. Gracias a Dios, we still have beer, he says, smiling, touching the necklace of shells as we clink our bottles of Corona. Later, on the beach, beside the churn of the waves, we sit separate, together. The moon is full and peyote's distorting magic burns through our veins. I grasp a handful of sand and hold my hand to the heavens, my fingers an hourglass, moonlight in each grain, and listen to the pounding, the splitting, the polishing, the reducing. The surf draws in, spits silicon. That's it. Time, space, the essence, eternal. It's so, that's it. Right here, limitless, así es. Perfect, essential, that's it. Whole, it's so, claro que sí. The infinite, the return, eternal. The surf draws back. We watch a fisherman, back bent, pull a boat from the water, and then he's beside us, crouching, nodding his head, a nodding dog, sitting, clasping his shins, pushing his greasy salt hair back with short, sea-swollen fingers, turning his head with an unnatural slowness. He says, "Visto las ondas, muy fuerte." Have you seen the waves? Very strong. And he's repeating, muy fuerte, muy fuerte, muy fuerte, and rocking back and forth. He talked and talked of boats and nets, harpoons, tides and catches. Or was it just a word? Fish. He shrank as he talked, shrank until he was so small I could have held him in my hand. I close it, my hand, and he disappears. I look up at Carlito. He closes his hand, shrugs, and laughing says, "Gone like a genie. Let's walk." The storm begins as a soft breath. A dark, billowing cloud builds over the sea, hangs above as a slanted shadow. When it reaches us, the rain beats merengue on palm roofs, salsas, improvised fences. The wind swings the hammocks and the shutters of the casitas. And we sit up until the slow dawn inside a bamboo shack with no windows, listening to the crash and sweep, the drag and pull, the crash and sweep, the drag and pull. And we know the eternal return, nothing constant but change. We return to the beach, in the grey dawn. The waves leave a tangle of shells, seaweed and driftwood halfway up the beach. In the morning, the villagers rejoice. A woman says to us, smiling, "Que tormenta, que ondas, gracias a Dios." Thank you, and thank you to you all, and it's really great to be here. And I don't know where Zelda's gone. Oh yeah, Zelda's there, I can see you now. Yeah, just really hope that I see some of you at least in the real very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much. Actually, she was coming live from Cressingham Gardens. So that was all the writers. Do you know what I'm excited about? I met Mick Artistik when he was showing his paper bag portraits in a barber's shop in Clerkenwell quite a while ago. And then I heard his song, David Bowie Was a Funny Man. And where was David Bowie born? Brixton. So actually, Stuart has managed to persuade him to sing that song for us now, just to play us out. If that's okay, Mick? All right. You're in for a treat, Brixton. It's double, triple bill, so it's going to be cool. Thank you, Mick, because it is my favourite song of yours, and I didn't want to ask.
Right, okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you all. It's been lovely just looking through the windows and listening to you all. And right, well, I'll do one song and I'm off for some pizza.
Thank you, Mick. Thank you.
Oh yeah, by the way, we have a GoFundMe page as well, which is keep the ego trip afloat. Well, I was normally I would have been playing Port Eliot Literary Festival this weekend. It's not on. I should have been at Glastonbury last week, but I've no gigs, and so
the link in the chat window now.
Right, I don't know that. Anyway, I'm going to play you this song. David Bowie was a funny man. Lived in space in a little tin can. There seems to be a few tiny problems. I'm not sure what's going on. I think it must be the Zoom. The Zoom is messing around. I'm sorry, I apologise. Try again. Are you ready? David Bowie was a funny man. He lived in space in a little tin can. Actually, he didn't. He lived in stock. That was just one of his jokes. Listen, I liked it in his hand. He was a funny man. At Christmas, he'd have a Malteser. Well, if I got all his love to us, then I just teaser. He never had a ship in his life. Except from ships. When he was down and his experiment with my friend. Can you hear me out there? You can, because it's saying your speaker is not working, Mick. Please sort your life out. That's what it's saying. So I'll carry on. Verse 6. When And he sacked the spiders from Mars. He needed another backing band. So who did he turn to? Where did he go? He ran for the shadows, ran for the shadows, ran for the shadows. And when he invented the onesie, he felt like a king again. He was back on top. Order was restored. He knew which way the wind was blowing. I think he was sad about the floods when he was in New York. On Broadway. Thinking about all his soggy relatives in Donny. And he remembers standing in the stands watching Donny against Man U. And he'd be chanting, wah, 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 Georgie Best. Wears a dress, so do I. Fits like a glove, wah, wah, wah. Let's go!
Go Brixton! Go Country Go! Thank you! Go Leeds!
Keep writing! And, yeah, and well, lots of love to you. I don't know, I've never met you before, but bless you all. All right.
Okay,
See, I'm going for my tea.
Can I just say thank you, Mick, thank you, Ashley, thank you, Liz, thank you, Troy, thank you, Amber, thank you, Anne, thank you, Bryan. We've just had a cavalcade of talent. Actually, Natalie Limon, thanks for encouraging this. I wouldn't have brought this on otherwise. And thank you, Cora, for helping us to manage stuff in the background and relaxing me yesterday when I was a bit stressed about whether it would all come together in time. Stuart, in the background, doing a bit of stage management there. Please, you've been a wonderful.
Thanks, guys. It was brilliant.
Yeah. We hope. Thank you, Sheila. Nice to see you. Sheila tells us that as of shortly, Manitoba in Canada are going to be doing a book jam because they've been inspired by Brixton. How cool is that? So I'm sure we can all go and visit that one. So I think that's, thank you to the audience. Probably, I think we're done. Not running too late. That was pretty good. 7:13. So lovely. It's just that good thing for a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zelda.
Thank you.
We'll
see you in October in the Hootenanny, apparently, because you know, no one's going to be like sitting around. So word on the street is we might actually be in an actual venue doing this in October again. If not, we'll come back virtually. But we've got to keep the spirit alive. Love you all.
We'll be there. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.